So this is a women's clothing shop and an ice cream shop. And then coming up here, you see where the land jets out to the left?
Yep.
That used to be an old dock. So I mentioned before we used to have limestone quarries on the island. They would blast the stone back off in one of these properties. They had train tracks that brought the stone out here, and the land used to jet out about 2/3 more, and then that's where they would ship the stone off. So this next house that it's adjacent to is actually called the Gathering Place. And that is a nice stone, old stone mason house. And then the next house up here is also a bed and breakfast called the Stone House B&B. And that was an old stone house back there, but it was behind there that there was the old quarry. So that's where they used to blast it and then ship the stones off the island to different locations. Now this next house on the right doesn't look too extravagant, but in the peak of viticulture, when there was 7 wineries, that used to be an old winery. So the basement's actually an old wine cellar. But what's really interesting about that property is there's a barn, and to the right of that house, that barn, is actually one of the highest points of land on the island. So you won't be getting any altitude sickness today.
What's the main crop that's grown here?
Soybeans and winter wheat. So right now you see how this house is actually lower than the road. So you can see where this is where they started excavating the canal system. They dug the canals and then they bermed up the road, which is basically a dike that we're driving on. So without the drainage system, we wouldn't be able to drive all the way around the island. So pre-1880s, all the 3 islands were disconnected. And in Lake Erie, there's over 24 islands in the Western Basin, and Pelee is the largest of them at 10,000 acres. There are some American islands south of here that are much more populated and easier accessible, but also much smaller. Coming up on the right, this next opening is the airport. So this is actually Canada's most southern airport. It acts as our lifeline in the wintertime. As I mentioned before, it is the only way to get back and forth in the wintertime. So all of our supplies, any of our visitors, any of our food, anything that we need in the middle of winter, the mail, everything comes from there. There's flights that are 12 minutes long, and it's about $60 round trip from Windsor to Pelee.
So does everybody kind of drive out to the airport when the plane's due in to get whatever they're after, or does it get delivered to...
No, everyone has different schedules, so no one goes, they go to the grocery store that's here, which we'll be passing. So this is one of the pump houses and the drainage system that goes into the center of the island, as well as parallel to the road here as well. So without this drainage system, again, they pump the water underneath the road back into the lake, but they also have the ability to reverse it from the lake back into the canal systems and then use it for irrigation. This is one of our public beaches. It's known as Sunset Beach.
Somebody said that some of the beaches had got washed out or eroded out.
Well, the water level was really high for a while, but now that's reopened. But yeah, the water level was really high for most of the summer, so that beach was closed because the stairs that went to the bottom was totally washed out.
I think last night we were talking about talking about the erosion at Point Pelee.
I didn't hear that. So you said in the winter the population drops to 150. What is it? I mean, I don't mean with tourists, but in the...
Well, 700 to 1,000 in the summer, and then sometimes 2,000 people with tourists as well. With day trippers, vacationers, cottagers. But according to Canada Post, there's around 300 year-round residents, people that have their residence on like their driver's license here. So these islands over here, the larger one to the left is called Hen Island, and there's a private fishing lodge on there, and then there's East Sister and Little Sister, which are the when it opens up, we'll be able to see a bit easier.
And so how often a year do you go to like Canada or stuff?
You say Canada.
But like take the ferry over.
It just depends. Running a business over here with multiple vehicles, and I go back and forth all the time for board meetings, and I'm not here year-round, I'm just here seasonally. So this is here our Nookshuk. It was built by a local on the island, and then the school kids ended up calling it Stone Man. And then every year people build these little Nookshuks, and then someone knocks them all down by the end of the year too. So.
And how much is gas on there? Like you can only, if you brought your vehicle over, it said you can only bring 55 liters.
Yeah, it's like $1.40, $1.45, and then if you get it at the other place that's open after 2 o'clock, so one place closes early, I think it's like $1.55 or 60. So being the transportation service here with 4 vehicles is quite expensive for gas. Oh, this guy's gonna throw his shoes up. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. We want to watch you. Go ahead. So this is the shoe tree over here. See this shoe tree?
Oh wow.
He's gonna throw it up there. So there's a quirky couple that lives here, and there's the man wanted to put up shoes and the wife wanted to put up flower pots. Usually it's hard to get them up there. I've thrown it up there before. So it's just I've totally done that before and then it didn't stay. It's an art to throwing the shoes up on the shoe tree.
How come I didn't see that listed? We got like 100 pairs of shoes. We could have decorated that tree.
Oh yeah.
We could have decorated our tree. No.
So this is the winter wheat field on the right. It's already been harvested once, and then over here is the campground. It's the Anchor and Wheel Trailer Park Campgrounds, Restaurant, Motel. This house was originally built to house the quarrymen, and then they built on the restaurant and built other things on afterwards. But right now here, there's a hydro pole, and when they excavated that hydro pole, they found native remains at the bottom of it. So this here is called Sheridan Point Road. We locally and jokingly used to call it Parliament Hill or Capitol Hill, as the mayor, deputy mayor, and town clerk all live in a row here. You'll see it's quite friendly here. We wave at everyone, even if you know them or not. It's just a tradition to wave at everybody. Here is obviously the cemetery. So this originally was located to the north of here, up along the shoreline, and coffins started washing up along the shoreline. So they had to relocate it, and they relocated it around the 1880s, around the same time that we dredged the island. Now you'll notice a large tombstone that says McCormick. It might be behind this one. I don't know if you can see it from where you are. But so William McCormick is known as one of the founding fathers of Pelee Island. He moved here in the 1820s with his wife and 12 children, and basically helped establish the infrastructure we have on the island today. He was the first lighthouse keeper, the first post office master. He would have been, they would have helped with the viticulture and with the dredging of the island, but they weren't actually the first ones to purchase the island. The first one to purchase the island was Sir Thomas McKee, who was a land surveyor from Upper Canada, and he bought Pelee on a lease for 999 years for $500 and a couple bushels of corn. Pretty crazy. I would have loved to buy an island for $500. But so there's a lot of children that were buried here because there was a smallpox epidemic. A lot of German immigrants were buried here because they came over to help with the dredging of the island. And you'll see on some of the tombstones, they say, you know, 42 years, 8 months, and 12 days. It was very common to have it down to the exact day. And some of these old limestone tombstones are actually all from Pelee Island limestone as well.
So when you were saying that he bought the island, did he buy it from Canada, or was this an American?
Well,
thing,
it was 1788, so it was pre-Confederation. And then in 1823, he leased it from, like, Thomas McKee, who was a land surveyor. He leased it from the natives, and then he leased it to William McCormick, who came here with his wife and 12 kids and settled over here. So at that point, it was still before Canada was Canada. So that's why it was like Upper Canada at the time. And then you see how everything needs to be planned out. Those are burial vaults that we needed to pre-order. And they may sit there for 10 years, but they're there.
Ready for action.
Just one moment here. Okay, I'm just on a tour, but what's going on?